Welcome to Tuesday. What's up? What's up? Rodriguez, Iceman.
Yo, what up, man? Audio good? All good?
I think so. I can hear you loud and clear.
Same here, likewise. So, doing one of those episodes where we're not supposed to be doing it on this particular day.
Right.
We had to move it a couple of
Hence,
days.
hence the zero viewers as of now. Zero
not,
viewers.
not that we get significantly more viewers if we do it on the regular days, but hey,
But at least we have some people
I
around,
know, I know,
right?
I know.
Better
It's
than
like,
zero.
but look at the upside. It can't get any worse, right? That's a situation where it can't get any worse. It can only go up from here, right? It can only get better. But
Yeah. If
regardless,
you're down, there's no way but up.
I don't even know if people actually watch the show, like if it's not live. Like, do people try to catch up? Like, if let's say, they follow the page and then they're not on
I
board
don't know, man.
for the
You know what?
streaming. Is there a
I
way to
wouldn't
check that?
count on it. I wouldn't count on it because, dude, we're competing against YouTube, right? I mean, if these people are really our followers and they really want to know what we talked about, then probably. But I don't know. I mean, because we are people from radio. They listen to us on a daily basis, not on a daily basis, but when they listen to us, it's usually live, and they're listening to us. Um, like, okay, hang on. It's okay. It's the moments. You know what I'm saying? Like when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
tune in, they what they get from us are moments,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
These
yeah.
are not content. These are moments. And sometimes maybe there's nothing, We're just on the background, like friends or whatever that was that we just talked about like few nights ago, right? Just
Yeah.
on the background. And sometimes we make we make that connection because of something that we talked about. And I mean, that moment lasts forever because I'm like, oh, that was so much fun. That was so interesting. And it's locked in their heads forever. And I think that's how we are. And I mean, competing with these content based podcasters or whatever, that's really totally different. So I wouldn't count on it, but well, if they do, then that's fine. But I'm more positive that people listen to us because they want to get those moments from time to time.
Yeah.
Because yeah, we were radio people. We're not podcasters. Podcast. What is a podcast, Stanaway? I didn't even know about podcasts up until I
Podcast.
don't know, maybe
Um.
last year. Because I've been when I was listening to Ryan Seacrest, I was like, all right, podcast. I'm like, what's a podcast? So I was like, what's a podcast? I don't even know what a podcast is.
It's
And now I'm
it's
doing
it's
a podcast, and I
it's
still don't understand what a
mainly
podcast is.
it's mainly like well, supposedly a podcast revolves
I know
around a particular.
broadcast.
Yeah, it's supposedly revolve around a particular like topic, or there's like a theme to a show. Like for example, you have a podcast about guys who read Archie comics, so that's just what that's about. You have a podcast about fans of Friends, the TV show, and that's what that's about. So just talk about episodes. I mean, there are like it's kind of like a specialized thing where you have like this group of people, or maybe two people, or one person who just like talks about that particular topic or theme, or anything that revolves around it. Not necessarily like what we do, where anything goes. And obviously, there's music is not a part of it. I mean, I would assume that that would be the big difference between, let's say, a radio show and, let's say, maybe a podcast. Would be a podcast would just strictly be all talk, mostly talk. Maybe they'll have clips from a particular show or whatever topic it is that they're discussing. They'll throw that in there, but it's not necessarily like music is not part of the entertainment aspect of the show. So I think that's what mainly what a podcast is, and I think that's where we differentiate from a podcast. That like there are podcasts where the theme is like parenting. Like if you scroll through the podcast library of, let's say, Apple or Spotify. They're split into categories. There's forget the sports podcast. They just talk about the Dallas Mavericks. These are fans of Dallas Mavericks, and that's what they talk about. So it's very easy to kind of find an audience for that, but it's also very limiting. But your audience is more defined. So let's say even if I don't know these guys, if I'm a fan of the Dallas Mavericks and I find a podcast, I know they're going to talk about something that I'm interested in. Whereas with us, we're kind of like shooting in the dark for the most part, where we could have an episode where we might appeal to a certain group or audience because that's what they're interested in, but we might also turn off people who might have no idea what we're talking about at that particular episode. So we're just kind of like shooting in the dark, but that's kind of how we are. We're not really, we're not stuck to just talking about one particular theme. We have our differences, we have our similarities, and I think that's what makes the show kind of unpredictable, and that's kind of what appeals to the show. I'm sure guys like Patrick, I'm sure we have episodes where like Patrick's really into it. He's like, "Oh man, these guys are talking about something that's right up my alley." And I'm sure there are episodes where we talk about stuff that he just like we're white noise to him. It's like, I don't get these guys. They're totally, you know, left field of what I'm interested in. But that's kind of how we did it with radio. But the difference with radio though was that radio was kind of like we had the music to depend on. So the main draw really was the music, and we were like the spice, right? The common thing there was that everybody was interested in the music that we were playing. I mean, we were playing popular music, so everybody would tune in to that station, listening to the songs, and then we throw in this offbeat show, and then that's where you filter out the people who are interested in the show. Guys like Gab, guys like whoever was listening back in the day. Whereas with this show, we don't really have like a particular theme, and I kind of want to keep it that way because I don't really think we can stick to just one thing, But we do want to talk about broad stuff, and we do ask our audience about it. But I don't know, like, for some reason they don't really care. They'd rather have us maybe decide on what to talk about. Maybe because there's not really that very many of them. Like if we let our audience choose, it's just gonna be Patrick and Gab and maybe Joe Boy and a couple of others, and these are gonna be the same people picking our topics. So for example, if we ask Gab right now, if Gab is really tuned in, right? Or Patrick said, if I'm not tuned in, most likely I'm busy that day or night. We appreciate that, Patrick. No pressure, man. I mean, we're not even supposed to be on this day. We just moved. We just had to move the episodes from supposedly Saturday to ending up being Tuesday. So, like, let's say we ask Patrick, is there a particular topic you want us to discuss? You think, it doesn't have to be anything that we specialize in, but just let's say something that maybe you want to hear our opinion about. I don't know if Patrick's gonna have something off the top of his head. Gab, you go through stuff, your share of heartaches and whatnot. You ask me questions when we're face to face, when we hang out. But when we do a show, is there anything you guys want Ice and myself to discuss? I mean, we're different people now. I mean, Ice obviously has a daughter already. He's already been living in a foreign country for so long. He's kind of a different man from who he was when we were hanging out. I'm kind of a different man from who I was when we were hanging out, so we might have a different perspective on things. So we kind of want to hear that, but we don't really get that. That's the thing. So it's hard. It's hard for us to come up with our own topic and try to guess if you guys are interested in it. I mean, Ice has his thing. I have my thing. Like, we'll come up with lists, but I'm not even sure if Ice is interested in it. Ice is not even sure if I'm interested in it. Gab, sulit vacation spots. Okay, remember Ice when we did this? When we were trying to be like the brochure of, trying to entice people to come to the Philippines and stuff?
Right,
We
right.
kind of did this. But we were kind of sourcing our material from other sources, not necessarily from within our safe topic is sports. That's true. You can't really offend anyone in sports. And I do follow sports like a lot. It's just not the thing with sports is it's not, you know, Ice is more athletic. Ice is more active in sports, but I'm probably more knowledgeable in terms of stats and stuff because I read up on it and follow it. So I don't really know which aspect of sports is more interesting to discuss and talk about. The actual hands-on, or just talking about stats. Because I think people can get that online. Knowing Rod, he doesn't like going out of Davao. You know what? I actually do, as long as it's like out of the Philippines. I don't like if it's out of the Philippines, man. I don't mind. But if it's like going nearby, dude.
We're the most racist Filipinos. Right. The two of
I mean,
us, right?
if you're from out, if you're like, say you're in Mindanao, right?
I avoid Filipinos here like a plague. Rod doesn't even care to see the Philippines, and he's there, and he has the money and the resources to go around, but he doesn't.
I don't because like I
We're
mean
racists to our
I
own
always
kind.
for
Oh,
me a
it's
vacation
sad.
or a trip, it always has to be an upgrade. You know what I'm saying? It always has
Of
to be an
course, I mean,
upgrade.
dude, toilet is it's very important. That's very important for me. I mean, you never know. You know what I'm saying? I have like a disorder. I mean, not really a disorder, but you know what I'm saying. Like
You poop all the
it
time.
doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it happens,
Yeah, I know.
and
So it's important.
that's terrible. I remember one time when I really needed to poop, and I was at no, not Ladislava. What's that other the one that I play
Woodridge,
at?
Woodridge,
Woodridge. I was at
Woodridge.
Woodridge, and it's Woodridge for crying out loud. And it's a gym that you pay for every time you go there and play, right? So you pay
Yeah,
for it.
especially if
They
you're not
should
from
have the
there.
amenities. They should have these things like toilets, and they should have toilet papers in it, and they should have working toilets, right?
Yeah.
Dude, my goodness. I don't know how I did it, but I pooped. But that was one of the most one of the grossest experience of my life.
That's
But
Woodridge. Can you
and
imagine if
that's
it
already
was? Can you
Woodridge.
imagine if that was a Jade Valley, right? I mean,
Well, imagine if it's
I don't even have
imagine
Jade
if it was
Valley.
at the Elmenris gym.
I don't even have Jade
Shit.
Valley as a basketball. But all we're saying here is, well, personally for me, it has to be an upgrade. Like you don't go to Rockwell and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm sick of Rockwell. Let me go to Victoria Plaza. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't work that way, right? It's always like when you're sick of Victoria Plaza, then you go to Rockwell or you go to, you know, wherever, right? You go to Greenbelt. It has to be an upgrade. That's the way I see it. And 9 times out of 10, for
And
me,
why did you say Jade Valley? That's a good point. Gabby's asking why Jade Valley.
I mean, it's like along Maa area, you know, same as Woodridge. So I would assume maybe there's a, you know, this is the first thing that came to my mind. Like, what, El Rio? What are we talking about, right?
Well, you could have said Elmendris gym because we're talking about a basketball
No.
court here.
Yeah, but
Or we're
yeah,
talking about basketball.
We're talking about
Why
like
did you
within a
bring up
village.
Jade Valley? I mean, you
We're
don't even know
talking-
if there's a basketball court there, or if they have a gym.
There you go. See, there you go. That's the thing. It's like, what if they had a basketball court?
Right.
Just imagine what the toilet would be like. You'd be swimming in that toilet when it rains. You know?
From Rockwell to Victoria
But-
Plaza, what a downgrade. Of course.
Exactly. And my point is that's why people always question why don't you like going on vacations. Okay, I haven't been to Palawan, so in fairness, maybe if I go to Palawan, I'll be blown away. I haven't been to Boracay, so maybe when they go to Boracay, I'll be blown away. I've been to Baguio. All right, I mean Baguio's great, but not necessarily my cup of tea. Like I wouldn't take that 8-hour Biahilo trip just to go there and like okay brag about how cold it is there. I mean, it's just that's my thing. You know, it's like I'm fine where I am, and if there's a place worth making that headache of a trip for, or you know, buwis buhay trip for, I would do it.
Dude, you're talking about like buwis buhay. Not everyday people. I mean, it's not. I mean, do you hear people dying every day going to Baguio, or at least I mean, going to Siargao or wherever these places you think that it's
Dude, remember
that
Tado?
it's like what
Remember
like Tado.
Tado? You know Tado,
Yeah,
right?
what
Tado
happened
long
to
hair-
Tado?
He died on a
Oh, what,
bus
he
trip to
died?
Baguio.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
on a bus trip to
yeah,
Baguio.
when was
So,
this? When was this? When was this?
Dude, I mean, of course, there are a lot of undocumented incidents. I'm not saying it's gonna happen.
Really? Like, no, I mean, look at the stats. Maybe you can look at the stats.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen all the time. I'm just saying, and it's not necessarily like when I say buwis buhay, yeah, that's
right.
kind of exaggerating it
Luis
a bit.
Buhay. Gabby is alive. He was in Siargao yesterday, and it was definitely better than Samal. And he's alive. He came out. Gabby, are you back in Davao?
I mean-
are you back in Davao?
Dude,
All right,
I
they can't
mean,
answer immediately, but all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing though. Gabby's level of
See how
like,
racist this guy is.
I know, no, but-
Buwis
but-
Buhay.
Yeah, you have
He
to
has a
understand.
term for it. Buwis Buhay.
Gabby's level of excitement for going to certain places is different from my level of excitement. Like I'm not to brag or anything, but I've been to the Grand Canyon, dude. I've been to I've been to certain places
Yeah,
that
of course you've been in Grand Canyon. You were in the States.
maybe kind of. I'm not saying it's up my standards, but maybe it's like.
All right, okay, I
Been
get
there,
that.
done
I get
that.
that
You know what
part.
I'm saying?
Right?
Like
On
you've
your
seen
part,
one
I
beach,
get
you've
that.
seen them all. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
All right.
I'm not really gonna go surfing anyways. I'm not.
All right.
I will go to Siargao.
How
if I'm a
how does
surfer. I'm not a
Bags
surfer.
how does
I don't
Bags
surf.
feel about it?
Well,
she
she is
okay
her.
with it, or
Well, well
she wants to, does she want to see
well, she
other parts of the Philippines, or
she
I mean, are you
is
stopping her from doing it?
she
Like,
is her
what's
own
happening?
person. I have never stopped her from doing anything. She goes where she wants to go. She
But
went to the States on her own. She went to Cebu on her own. She
all
went to
right,
Bacolod on her own.
but you wouldn't drive with her and the kids to Siargao,
No, I
right?
wouldn't.
All right,
Out of my
okay,
own, out of my own. Like if I
okay.
were to decide, I wouldn't.
Hypothetically,
I wouldn't. I
hypothetically,
wouldn't.
Bags, gets fed up one day, and she says to you, "Hey, Rod, you know what? I don't care. You want to stay here, you stay here. All right.
Yes, that it
So,
happens all the
and
time.
I'll take the kids. We'll go somewhere. We'll go to Mati or whatever. Are
Yes,
you are you gonna be fine with it?
of course. I mean,
All
as long
right.
as they're
Okay.
safe, you know
Are
what I'm
you sure you're
saying?
not gonna follow them, like right after they leave?
I
You're like
mean,
gonna follow them and like
as
just to
long
make
as
sure they're safe.
as long as they're safe. I mean, here's the thing, dude. Here's the thing. It's like I can do things that
Okay.
I'm not necessarily looking forward to.
All right. But okay, here's another one, Rod. I was in Baguio a few weeks ago. The bus ride is very comfortable, and I'm still alive.
Yeah, that's
See,
fine.
he's still alive.
I'm
Tado's
fine.
dead, but I mean
That's
that
fine.
was Tado. I mean
That's
Gabby's
fine.
still alive,
I'm
man.
fine. I'm okay. I'm good for him. Good for him. I mean, I have no
Okay.
problem. Good. I'm glad he saw
Okay,
Baguio,
read
dude.
Patrick's message. Read Patrick's message for you.
We need a lot of. Like I said, I don't surf, man. That's the main thing. What am I? I'm a mall rat. Like you can't all. Not everything that's appealing to one person is gonna be appealing to the other. All right. And I'm not saying like that. That's the difference with me. Like I don't drag my friends into what I do, and I certainly don't expect my friends to drag me to what I do. But we're still friends, and there's always a common ground. I'm
All
just
right. So
like,
you're happy with malls. That's it.
yeah.
Malls.
Here's the thing.
I mean, that's it.
Here's the thing. Okay, I had a friend. We got one of my best friends. Right, got married in Surigao. Decade or a half ago. You know the guy. Most of my friends went with him. My friends who he only became friends with because I was friends with him went and attended his wedding. I didn't.
Right.
All right. And
Right.
I think they took like two SUVs to drive there. It
Right.
was like 6 hours. I don't know. And that
Right.
they showed pictures of like being in the falls and eating seafood and stuff and all that stuff. And like this is one of my best friends in college. You got married, and they came back. And then I got I guess start drinking with my friends when they came back, and some of my friends who attended that wedding, and they're like, when they were riding the light ace or whatever van it was that they took, they said their heads were hitting the freaking roof of the freaking vehicle because the road was so bad and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, just right then and there, I'm like, okay, he's my friend. I wish he could have attended his wedding, but I'm gonna have to take a couple of days off. I'm gonna have to cancel some of my hosting gigs for that, and I'm gonna have to take that road trip with him. And I know people will say, "Oh, you're not a real friend because you didn't make that sacrifice," But if I made that trip and I had all these complaints in my head and I felt bad about being there and was bitching about it in my head, I would be a worse friend because I would probably take that against him. I would probably be like, "Ah, shit, whatever," you know. And I don't. I think my presence there wasn't really essential. I wasn't really the best man. I was not really the officiating pastor or minister. I wasn't like my presence will not even be missed. You know what I'm saying? So it's fine. They'll manage. They'll survive. So if I'm just gonna go there just to prove a point, I think I can prove my point in many ways. Like, what if let's say you're in the States and you can't attend a friend's wedding? Are you really gonna make that trip to the Philippines to attend a friend's wedding just to prove you're a friend? Of course not, right? It's the same thing. So it's the same thing. So Britannia Islands, and I know, dude. I know there are a lot of nice beaches out there. I'm fine with that. I'm just not a beach guy. It doesn't appeal to my it's senses. I'm not freaking out over like, oh, there's a beach. I gotta go there. I don't have to go there. It's an experience that you can get in any beach that you go to. Maybe the sand is a little finer. Maybe the water is a little bluer. Maybe there's less people and all that stuff. But you're not gonna live there. You're gonna be there for a while, but that's it. You're not sure about the amenities. Plus, you have to think. I have got kids. I have two young kids. I have to make sure the accommodation is great. I have to make sure if anything happens or emergency situations. I mean, I don't know. I just think of that stuff. I'm not the kind of person who's like, I'll cross the bridge when I get there. No, I'm not that kind of guy. I'll look at the bridge before I cross it. Is it necessary for me to cross that bridge? But like I said, there are a lot of people that do that. And You have to. You can't take. You can't say, "Oh, Rod's like he wants to be a recluse, dude." I've been traveling the world since I was freaking 10 years old, 11 years old. So I've had my fill. It's not coming from somebody who hasn't done anything. All right. I had my first like international trip at what, like 11 years old. That was like how many hours I was on an international flight on my own. I mean, so you can't really say I haven't really done anything. Maybe that had an effect on me. Maybe I got sick and tired of that shit and I wanted to be like, I wanted to settle down. Maybe that was an effect psychologically. I don't know. And people who haven't done that are excited as shit to go anywhere because they haven't done it. It's like when you're young. When you're young, when you're young, your friends are inviting you, dude, let's go out, let's drink. You're like, shit, you would lie to your parents about it. You would escape and jump out of the window to do it. You would do all this shit just to go out there and get drunk at Ball Beach. Now, once you've done it, been there, done that, that excitement fades, man. You're not really, it's not worth it anymore. You're like, it's not that it's less fun, but it's just not something that stirs your senses anymore. And I think that's what happened to me. Maybe because I was so young, I was forced to go to places that I wasn't really, planning for myself. And now that I'm an adult, I can decide for myself. I'm like, I'll go where I want to go. Not because people pressure me to go, not because the magazine says it's a nice place, not because I saw a YouTube video and it says this place is great. That's part of old age, man. You go to the grocery, you know what you want to buy. You don't want to try every freaking item in the grocery anymore. That's part of old age. You just know what you want. And knowing what you want, there's nothing wrong with it. It's an indicator of maybe who you are, or it's an indicator of maybe what you've been through. And Gab's a young dude. Gab's not married. He doesn't have a family. He's excited as shit to do everything. I'm happy for him. Joe Boy, what's up? What's up?
What's up? What's up is Rod still don't want to, like do things outside of the vow. I mean, it's still off the table. That's what's up, Joe Boy. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed, man.
Nah, I'm
we're,
not.
We're still at this up until now. I'm pretty sure you've heard this 1,000 times.
But I mean, like I said, what's the draw anyways? Like, what's the big deal? I mean, like, if I do it and I bitch about it and I'm not happy where I'm at, is there anybody who's accountable for it? Can I like blame somebody for pressuring me to go there? No, I'm not gonna do that.
No, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
It's not my
so
thing.
It's not your thing.
And I've been disappointed many times. It's not like I've been disappointed many times. Trust me, I've been disappointed more times than impressed. I mean, okay, I went to Bacolod and I didn't really know what to expect. And yeah, but Bacolod's nice. I mean, I'm fine with it. It's just really small. It's like basically one street. And
right.
Not to offend anybody, but I'm just saying, it's like, if not for work, if not for a particular, network meeting thing that we had to do for work during my radio days, and if I didn't go there with Mao and Joe, I might have kind of like, it wasn't my thing, like, the batchoy there was great, but wasn't anything to write home about. It wasn't life changing. All right. So, but it was the trip basically to go there was probably more time consuming than the actual time that we had to go around. So you do the math. And it wasn't like we were looking at beautiful islands like if you're in Palawan or something. It was like we were on this crappy barge the whole time, and
Yeah, but the experience, man, the experience. You've been in Bacolod. I mean, you can, you can look back to that and like, oh, I was there. I saw a part of it, and I met some people there. I mean, it didn't change your life, but yeah, I mean, you were there. I mean, I haven't been there. I would love to see that street that you were talking about. It might just be a long
but we had a
street,
memorable night. But
nothing life changing. But you know what I'm saying? It would have been interesting.
Joe and Mao and I, we had a memorable night at this place called
See, that's what I'm saying.
called Hot Lips. All right, not Hot Legs,
Lips.
Hot Lips, but it's pretty similar.
Lips.
But we had a good night. We all like woke up in the morning and we all had the buffet, and our bosses were like, "Where were you
Hot
guys last
Lips.
night? Where were you
Hot
guys last night?" And Mao and I were like,
Right.
"We had a night." But we ended up just meeting women from Toril, all right? We ended up finding out that the women working there are just women from Davao.
Right? Isn't
I'm
it
like,
interesting? Isn't that
No.
interesting?
Go to
No, it
Bacolod
is
to meet women from
interesting.
Toril.
That's what I'm saying. I might meet somebody here and like, oh, really? You're from this place? I'm like, oh, I'm from that place. Oh, holy crap! Of
What
all the places we
place?
could have met, right?
That's a good question, Joe Boy. What place other than Davao can you call home, Rod?
Virginia,
Probably, yeah, but Virginia, probably Virginia, because I spent my high school years there. That's where I turned,
but
my puberty
that's not
years
West
were spent there.
Virginia, right? Like that's a different
No,
place.
well, West Virginia is totally different. Like I've been
West
to West Virginia, it's different.
Virginia.
It's exactly how you picture it to be, like cows and pastures, and like it's West Virginia. It's Bukid, all right. But Virginia is not. Virginia is the suburb of Washington D.C. So it's a part of DMV. DMV is like the DMV is like Virginia, DC, and Maryland. That particular area. So it's a city. But what I like about it is it's a suburb, and there are a lot of Asians in that particular part of Virginia where we stayed because that the families of the people who worked at embassies in Washington D.C. all lived in that same area. So there were,
Hmm.
the families of the Vietnamese consulate and the families, the Korean people in the embassies. So you see a lot of minorities as well. I had Indian friends, I had Korean friends. Yeah, DMV's LTO. That's Department of Motor Vehicles in the States, but we
Right,
also call that DMV, that particular area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. That's also referred to as the DMV, which is shortcut
right.
for that particular area. But anyways, yeah, I mean, but it like when you say home, it doesn't necessarily mean that those are the only places I would want to be at, Joe Boy. I have like places that I definitely was worth the trip. I would say San Francisco. I would definitely take that how many hours plane ride again. Um, you know,
I mean, no, I mean, I think what
Thailand. I
Joe Boy
love
is
Bangkok.
asking is, I think what Joe Boy is asking is, if you can live anywhere besides Davao City, where would it be? Like,
Oh, like
where is your
money's no
second home?
object. Like money's
All
no
right, yeah,
object, or like
right, yeah.
where I
No,
feel
I
at home.
mean, well, I mean, where you feel at home. I mean, if money's no object, of course I would live somewhere where I mean, if I have all the money in the world, I would live where all the rich people would live. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but I mean, in your experience from from all these places you've been and all the experiences you had, where is the second home that you think it is? Is it
Um,
Germany? Is it London? Is
Virginia,
it Virginia?
Virginia, but
Is
I
it
don't
Boston?
like probably not anymore now because if I go back there, it's changed so much, and a lot of my childhood friends have moved from, the familiarity is not the same. It's not like the Philippines where everybody stays in the same freaking place. You could be gone for 30 years and come back here, and I'm pretty sure some of your childhood friends will still be there. The people who live there probably still live there. In the States, people move around a lot, so you could go to the same neighborhood and nobody there. You don't know anybody there anymore. Nobody's staying there. Somebody that you're familiar with anymore. But it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with me not wanting to move around. I don't mind moving around. Like like I said, there
Yeah, I
I
move
haven't
around.
been.
I go to SM Lanang. I go to Abriza.
Yeah,
I go to. I move around.
To be
But
honest,
yeah, here's the thing, and I
I'm at that
understand that. I
point.
get
We're
that.
going to SM Ecoland. It's a pain already. I'm like, this is
All right,
far already
true,
for me.
true.
Like I
Like
don't
I
go
said,
there.
like I said earlier, I get it because my dad's the same thing. Like you can take him to Grand Canyon, and he would have the same reaction. He'd be like, "Yeah, Mona ni." Like he doesn't care. I mean, I'm pretty sure he would say the same thing.
Yeah,
Nothing will satisfy my dad. Even if you say like, "Oh, it's Grand Canyon," like, yeah, if I take my dad there, dude, it would be the same
exactly.
reaction.
You've
He'd
seen.
be like, "What? Like this is
I
it?
mean,
Like big rocks? What?
I don't
Like
want
you
to
took me here?"
like if I go to Grand Canyon, I've seen it once. That's it. I'm good. Like I don't want to necessarily go back there again and look at
He'd
it.
be
It's not
like,
gonna
"May
change.
pan tag," like he would say like somewhere where there's like food and beer
Yes,
and
yes.
people
There
that
you
he
go.
knows.
Exactly.
He'd
Perfect.
appreciate that. But if you
Perfect.
like take him to what Grand Canyon or let's say like the Eiffel Tower, he'd be like, "Yeah, sa tutukan ko na."
Yeah.
Like that's what he would say. That's what he would say. Like, tutukan ko na, saan ko man na. Right? So
Exactly.
he wouldn't appreciate that. My mom, on the
Exactly.
other hand, she'd be happy about it. She'd be thrilled, and she'd be like, "Oh, I only see these things on calendars. I've seen this when I was a kid. Just when I took her to Kyoto and she saw the like the Golden Pagoda, she was just so thrilled. She was like, "Oh, when I was a kid, I saw this in a calendar, and I never thought that I would
She
see it
actually
in
saw
like
the
in
actual
person, right? Like
thing.
the,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
actual thing."
yeah,
And
yeah,
she's
yeah.
pretty happy about it. But my
Yeah.
dad, if you took him there, he'd be like, "Yeah." Unsa man ta diri tanaw tanaw sa
I think
tindog ta diri tibok
I
adlaw.
think a
That's
lot
what
of
he
it
would
has to do.
say.
I think a lot of it has to do
He is a
with,
legend.
I mean, I that's why I get along with him. I remember during Ice's despedida, I had a long talk with Ice Pop. We were sitting, I don't know, we got along with our conversation. We were both drunk, but K Mark was there. I was there with the three of us. For some reason, we were talking until like 4 a.m. or something. And it was the longest talk I've had with Ice Pop. And I think I just kind of understood where it's coming from too. It's like no nonsense. And I think with me, it's like I would want to go to Japan. I would want to see all these places, but you have to understand if there's anything that kind of living in Europe taught me, or maybe being in another place, like America is very welcoming because we can relate to it easily. Like we speak English. Like I said, we have a lot of Western sensibilities. We grew up with, growing up with knowing what America is and whatnot. But Europe is different, and I did spend a significant amount of time living in Europe as well. I lived in London for almost a year. I lived in Germany for how many months? So, but I felt like, it's like it, it's not for me. Like as much as I'm impressed with all that stuff, like, like for that, go to Spain, Sagrada Familias, whatever, or you go to Rome, whatever. But it's not like how it is here in the Philippines, where let's say like maybe parts of Asia is more relatable to us because we're Asians and we're little people. We're programmed a certain way, so we adapt and attach to certain things easily. But let's say in Europe, there's a sense of like detachment. Like I can go there and be impressed with it, but I can never have ownership of it. I can never claim it to be a part of my history. I cannot relate. Like there's just this sense of like awe, but that's their thing. There's only so much I can absorb from that. History has made it familiar to me, but it's not even my history. I didn't even play my culture didn't even contribute to a speck of this structure. So there's that sense, and I think for me that's why when people go to France and have pictures at the Eiffel Tower, that's great. I'm for it, but you can never lay ownership to it. People will never look at you and say, it could be your grail, or whatnot, but it'll never be a part of who you are as a person. You will always forever be a tourist, an outsider looking in. And I think that's how I felt about being in Europe. As much as people will say, "Oh, that's great, you live there. That's great."
Do you
You've
feel
seen
the
it.
same when you were in America? Like, oh,
No,
you
no,
didn't.
Dude, in America, we kind of have a relationship with America, historic wise. We fought the same wars. We had currency that had their seal on
Well,
it
yeah,
for a while. I
those
mean,
people did. No, not us. What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, those people. I mean, we didn't fight. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, you moved there. Like, all right, okay. So, like, but what
no,
you're
no, no,
saying is
but
it's because of
no, no,
what? Like,
no,
is
but
it
what I'm
because of the
saying,
people there, or is it
no,
because
no.
of
It's no because, like I said, there's a lot more Filipinos there. There's a lot more minorities there, and the
all right?
people that
Okay,
go there, they don't really seem to have a problem fitting in. Like America
all
isn't
right.
really defined by a particular like race or whatever. Like America, like I said, like my mom, my siblings are Americans. Like anybody can lay claim to the citizenship of being an American if you live there long enough and you fit the
Right.
whatever requirements, right? But I think just the fact that here in Matina alone we have a MacArthur Highway. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's that sense of it's relatable. It doesn't have to be anything that I have to accept. Like I'm not necessarily Caucasian or raised in America or anything like that, but I'm just saying it's definitely closer to home than let's say Europe, because Europe has it's its own world. It has its own thing. I mean, mga tamad ang European. Yeah, well, I, I guess you can say that. But if you
In
look
the
at their
same,
structure,
in the same, and the same view that they have on Filipinos. Uh,
no, 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 no. I think
being like one
Filipinos
tamad.
I think Filipinos are looked at
Are,
as
are, are they
hardworking
are,
people
are
over
they
there.
viewed as like
I'm
hardworking
sure
over
over
there?
there. I
Because
think
like
so.
I've heard this like, oh, Filipinos are lazy. Well, I think it was the Spanish who came
I
up with that, but
mean,
I don't know.
yeah,
That was
dude,
like
this,
that was
the
like
Spanish.
ages ago. But
I would say the Spanish are lazy. They literally have like a period where it's siesta time, right? I mean, yeah, exactly. Like they close their shops like at 2 p.m. at two
right
in
up
the
until now,
afternoon or
yeah,
something,
it's
right?
culture, yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
culture.
culture. It's culture. So, but I don't know about Filipinos
Yeah.
being tamad. And I mean, yeah, you could say, like I said, there's a lot about those cultures that it's kind of hard for us to relate to. Whereas in the States, it's you're not just. I mean, unless you talk about the Civil War and the American Constitution, then maybe we're not really part of that. But I'm talking about like just living there. You know, like there are more Jollibees there. There are Asian shops there. You go to a mall, it doesn't feel like you're
I
going.
mean,
It's like
yeah.
if
I
you take.
mean, now you watch TV dramas or sitcoms and stuff. I mean, look at Superstore. There's that Filipino guy there, and I think there's like a couple of them in there, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
just
yeah. You take
it's
a
really
picture.
highly diverse now. It's
You
very diverse.
you have your picture taken at a mall in the States, and you have your picture taken at a mall in the Philippines. Like you can hardly tell the difference. Like the shops are the same. Like the shops there are the same. The food courts pretty much the same. Like except for maybe you'll see some white people in the background, but there's really not much difference. And even when I went to Bangkok, where they're Thai and they're Buddhist and they have Buddha and they have all these temples and stuff, I still did not feel too detached. Like for some reason, that still kind of, I still kind of felt like I had a sense of belonging there because they're Asians, you know, like the temples is not really that far from, let's say, the mosques here or whatever we have here, the Chinese temples that we have here. It's kind of like it wasn't too foreign to me. Unlike when, let's say, I went to Germany and we went to this Cologne cathedral and it was supposedly where the three kings were entombed and whatnot. And I was looking at it, and I was looking at the statues and whatnot. And these are, there's nothing Asian about the architecture, about just the everything, you know, it felt like they belong there, especially when you see the Germans walking on the streets and they're all 6 foot tall and they're all built like freaking models. You have a sense of like, ah, shit, okay, I get it, you know, I get it, I get why they look at us this way, because physically, stature wise, we are, let's say, in size inferior to them. All right, just in size, not intellectual wise, not, you know, talent wise, definitely not. But if you just look at it like in size, you're really walking amongst people who are born with that genetics, and they designed that particular region for themselves, not for us. Whereas if you go to China, if you go to Bangkok, if you go to Malaysia, you know, everything's small, everything's cramped, everything would fit Asian people. So you have a sense of belonging. And I think that's kind of like what it is for me, you know. It's we contributed in the richness of Europe through colonization. They should thank us for all of that. Um yeah. You mean in what sense? I'm trying to figure this one out from Patrick. We contributed to the richness of Europe through colonization, like because they colonized us, and they maybe learned something. Everything is small in Asia, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being small. You don't feel small when we're in Asia. We only feel small when we're in Europe, or we're in countries where, like I said, it's meant for bigger people. They imparted the siesta culture, mga tamadang European. Okay, we all have these stereotypes. I mean, you know, but
And yeah,
yeah,
and some people don't even realize that we're small, right? Because in actuality, we are actually small. And then we have these people complaining that we lost to whatever, right? We lost in the FIBA whatever qualifying cup and shit. And I'm like, do you know who we're up against? How big these guys are? I'm like, I mean, who do we have? Who do we have? Come on. And you complain and you blame the poor guy. You blame Chat Reyes. He's
yeah,
not
it's
even the
a
one playing. He's not even the one on the court. You know what I'm saying? Don't blame the
exactly.
guy who's on the sidelines. Blame the guys on the court.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, the problem is, like, let's say even if we have Kai Soto or Bonel Balingit or EJ File or whoever the hell tall guy it is, think about it. Let's say a Filipino is like, even just a Filipino who's 6 foot tall. We're not, the mobility is compromised because we're not programmed to move the same way when we're bigger. You know, it's kind
Right.
of like a freak of nature when a Pinoy is big. So we all like bumbling idiots.
True.
Whereas in the
True.
States, you have some, even in Australia, you have someone like Ben Simmons with 6'10" and he's playing point guard. He's handling the ball. He's point guard. 6'10". LeBron 6'9". He's, I mean, he's
He's a
like what?
beast.
He's Bonel Baling its height. How can you compare the mobility and athleticism of Baling
Right.
it to like LeBron? I mean, come on, right? And we're complaining.
I mean, you got to hand it to the Filipinos, man. I mean, sometimes we really think big. I mean,
We
that's
bite
what we're
off more
good
than
at.
we could chew. We
We,
bite off more than we could
we
chew.
think really big. I mean, we think too much of ourselves. Like,
Just think
like
again, man.
really, come on, man. I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
Pacquiao's a freak of nature. I mean, we're lucky
And
to have
and
Pacquiao.
he fought within his weight. It's not like he fought Tyson,
Exactly, exactly. I mean,
but
but he
I was
did
blown
beat guys who
away.
were like
I was blown away when he beat Margarito and De La Hoya. That
exactly,
I was
exactly,
blown
right?
away.
I mean, right?
I
I
was
mean,
blown away.
that's what I'm saying. He's a freak of nature because he was able to do that. He was able to
Yes,
beat
I was blown away.
guys who are much bigger than him, and we're lucky to have him. And it's one of those things that all right, okay, see. And when he lost, he lost, and he's that guy. Like he got knocked out. It was like, well, I got knocked
It's
out. I
fine.
mean, what can
It's
I
fine.
do? Yeah, I
Exactly.
made a mistake,
He didn't point fingers.
wrong footing, got knocked out by Marquez, whatever.
That's
Fuck
right.
it. All right, I'll fight again. And then he lost to Ugas and was like, all right, I lost, whatever. I mean,
It's
all
fine.
right, okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's it for
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't make excuses.
That's
And
true.
these guys on the internet talking about like a Chat Reyes resign. I mean, really? I mean, will it really make a difference who we have as a coach? Will it make a difference if it's Eric Spoelstra who's heading, the national team?
No,
I mean, come
I don't
on,
think-
man. Come
I
on.
I don't think he's gonna
Come
make it.
on.
He's still gonna be, you're still gonna have to face the same opponents. You know what I'm saying?
I know, yeah.
You're still
We,
have the
we,
same
we
roster.
couldn't even handle JJ Barea for crying out loud. I saw that game back then. When was this? A few years ago. We were up against like Puerto Rico, I guess. Hey,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
lost
yeah.
against
Puerto
Puerto
Rico,
Rico. To whom? To JJ Barea, who's
Yeah.
like a Filipino. Like who has
Yeah,
a Filipino
but he's
height?
like 5'9". What is he? 5'10"? Like,
Yeah, he's not even a 6-footer.
No, he's not. He's not.
But he's an NBA player.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
that
he has level.
explains.
He has that skill
That
level.
explains, I mean, why they beat us because they have talent. They have some talents there that we don't. Who do we have in the NBA? Come on, tell me. Like somebody who's really from the Philippines. Who do we have in the NBA? Nobody, right? JJ
Yeah,
Barea is from Puerto Rico for crying out loud,
Nobody.
right? Manu Ginobili is like who? Where is he from? Like Argentina,
Argentina, yeah.
right? He's not like he's half and he grew up in wherever. Like no, he's from Argentina,
From Argentina, yeah.
right?
Yao Ming, he's
Tony
from
Parker's
China.
from France.
Yao Ming's
Yao Ming's from China. What are you talking
That's
about? Who
true.
do we have? Like, oh, we have like Jordan Clarkson. Well, newsflash,
American.
he's from America.
Yeah,
he's from
he's
America. He's
American.
American,
Yes, he
right?
is.
I mean,
He's American.
if Team USA would pick him, I mean, he would not leave Team USA for the Philippines.
Backing up Iceman's point about like when Ice talks about athletes who are like when you say Filipino, like can they relate to Asian things? Can they relate to Filipino things? I totally get it because like for example, let's say someone like Jordan Clarkson, right? You say okay, that guy's Pinoy, but like you bring him to Yangurin, you bring him to Bangkeroan, does he look like he belongs there? Does he like? I mean, just like if he walks around, no, I don't think he's that. He's gonna be like lost, like a lost kid. Pretty much. So, but if you bring him to a market in the States, he's gonna be totally fine. So that's it, just like that's basically it. He will stick out. When people see him walking around Agdao, people are gonna notice him. People are not gonna say, "Oh, that's just a Pinoy." We won't even notice him if he's no. People are gonna look at him and say, "Oh, G.I. Joe, American Joe." Whatever, right? So just that fact alone already kind of makes him more American than Filipino, and I think that's the way I see it. It's like, and we don't see ourselves that way. That's the thing, like, because when I was in the States, I was a kid, so I wasn't looking at the fact that I was a minority. Like if I walked in a store, that people might look at me and think I might shoplift. Like I never thought of that. I always thought like I was like one of the white kids. I was wearing the same brand shirts. I was wearing Jordans. I was wearing whatever. But if I probably went there, someone older, I would probably be more sensitive to, let's say, the way people look at me. Or like if I dated a white chick and like the parents would question me or something, because then I would probably feel like, okay, no matter how American I might think I am, I still look Filipino. I still have the height of a Filipino. I'm a minority no matter how blonde I color my hair. I'm still a Pinoy and they're still going to look at me and they're still going to be 50-50 about it. Until maybe I speak fluent English and maybe they'll like accept me a little bit more than somebody with a thick accent. But still, let's say if I walk in my white classmate's house, I don't think they're going to have that same level of comfort as, let's say, just a white kid coming in. Like, their son would come in and introduce a white kid friend. Oh, mom, dad, this is Kevin. Oh, hi, Kevin. Oh, your parents, blah, blah. But if I walked in, I'm like, mom, dad, this is Rod. Rod King, whatever. I'm sure they'd be like, okay, where's this kid from? They're probably trying to figure me out. They're probably trying to figure out what my parents are. Are we immigrants? Whatever. Do I have, am I gonna steal their stuff? Do I have terrorist inclinations? Whatever. I mean, sometimes we forget that, But when you're a kid, you don't see that. But I think when you're an adult, you go to a foreign country, you start to realize that when people watch the news and there's negative propaganda about your country and your culture, you become a part of that. People look at you, and the negative publicity that they see in the news about your race, they see that in you. Patrick says in the Philippines, we have 6'4" or 6'5" centers. In other countries, 6'4", 6'5" should be guards. There's a disconnect with the height and skills in basketball in the Philippines.
There is.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be happy with. I mean, I'm not saying that we should give up, but I mean, we should pick our battles, right? I mean, okay, we have Efren Reyes. He's a world class, billiard player. I mean, whatever you call him, right? Like he's a billiard master.
Champion. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like he's a champion. He's one of a kind.
Yes.
He's one of those guys.
He's a legend.
We are lucky to have him. Manny
He's a legend.
Pacquiao, right? Paing Nepomuceno. These guys, right? Let's not push like Gilas Filipinas, like Ascals. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, I think
Come
so
on,
too.
really.
Let's stick to
Ascals.
our own,
Like what's that lady soccer team that we just had? Like they're not Ascals. What are they?
The Aguilas.
What do you call them?
Aguilas?
What Aguilas?
Was it Aguilas? I don't know. I
The name
forgot
sucks.
what it was.
Anyway, whatever, right? I mean, that particular team, right? I mean, yeah, the Southeast Asian like championship probably, but they're not gonna get past those, like strong teams, like from Europe or like I don't know, from North America
Yeah.
or even
we're
from
fighting,
like,
we're fighting
like,
a losing battle, basically.
South America, right? I mean, no, come on, let's not. Okay, it's just. I'm just a realist. I'm not saying that. I mean, but like Patrick's right. I mean, if the time comes that we have 6'4" guards or 6'5" guards in the Philippines, and our centers are at around 7'1" or 7'5", then maybe, yeah, why not? I mean, yeah. I mean, if you try to blame the coach for losing, then maybe I would have to agree with that. Like, oh, maybe it's the coaching.
Look at the NBA now, right? Look at the NBA now. People are saying, okay, well, what about the NBA? It's like Americans are no longer the ones who are kings of the NBA. Like Europeans, Nikola Jokic is like the MVP, I think 2 years in a row, and then you have Luka Doncic. Those people are freaking like 6'8", that 7-footers. These guys still have that height. They're European.
We have a long way to go.
They're not American, but they still have that same physical
Europe
gifts
was
that we don't.
Was very inferior in terms of like skills and whatever. But now these days, it's different. European players are like, I've seen this meme on Facebook where they have like all these European players, like they're all stars, right, or whatever, they, and they would like, all right, play against Team USA, and I'm like, dude, they have a chance.
Like
who was that on the picture? Like it was Giannis, and then there's
Luka.
Doncic, and there's Jokic.
Oh,
all right?
my God.
So who else? Like the two other like European guys. Like they're like big and they're very skillful. So I mean, they have a chance against Team USA if that's like the European team. But it's just like I mean, they're not from the same countries in Europe, so that's kind of like sad.
DeAndre Ayton's like what, Jamaican? DeAndre Ayton's like Jamaican.
Yeah.
He's not even like US. So I mean, yeah, it's what they lacked before was skills, not height. They already had the physical advantages.
They did.
Skills. Now they have,
I know.
But the
But because the game changed,
we have a
so
height
that's why
issue. That's the thing.
We have a height issue. We have a skill issue. We have a mentality issue. we just like we have a lot of issues, man. So it's just hard. It's just hard.
Yeah, we have better chances in beauty
it's so
pageants.
difficult to get over or to get past through the Asian teams alone. I mean, come on. And Gabby has a point. I think we have better chances in beauty pageants than sports. Oh, definitely. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
the pageant world, we're good at it.
like Catriona Grace, like what, half?
See, that's okay.
Who's that other chick? Who's that other chick with the
There's
big
the-
boobs
yeah.
from Cagayan? She's like half too, right? What's her last name?
Yeah, there's my issue.
What's her
There's
name?
my issue again. I forgot.
Worksman?
I have no
Whatever.
Wurtzbach. Pia Wurtzbach.
Wurtzbach. What? Yeah, that's the last name alone. Catriona Gray. Does that sound Filipino to you? Pia Wurtzbach. Does that sound Filipino to you?
That's right. Okay, yeah. There you go. Like that. She's Australian. Pia Wurtzbach, like she's German, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
this is what I'm
I'm just
saying.
saying,
See,
you know.
that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, with the pageant thing too. Like, yeah, right. I mean, Gloria Diaz. All right, Gloria Diaz. Margie
Yeah, but that
Moran
was like what?
Florenda. I
That was
mean,
like
these.
that was like what? 1970 something.
Yeah, I know, but they're Filipinas, and I'm proud
That's
of them
true.
because they were
Yeah,
actually
I am too.
Filipinas,
I am too. I
right?
am too. I am
Wow.
too.
I mean, Catriona Gray, she's Australian. She's Patrick's, like, well, yeah, I mean, Australian, right? Patrick's in Australia. I
Indonesia
mean,
defeated Gilas and see, we can't even beat Indonesia, man. I mean, come
exactly,
on.
right?
We're like bigger. We're bigger, I think, in terms of average stature than Indonesians.
Hey,
I think
are
we're
are
bigger
we
than
talking
them.
about basketball here? Indonesia defeated Gilas Filipinas?
Oh,
Like
that's
the
what
the
Clark
the,
said.
the Gilas. All right. Really? We lost against Indonesia?
So
And you know what? A lot of Filipinos here, and I don't know, like, where the confidence is coming from, but they get pissed when they were like, or if they get mistaken for Indonesian, they get mad. Nah, dili, taka lang ka. Like, really? Like, how different are we from Indonesians and Malaysians? And like they react as if like they're better than these guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, or are you Indonesian? Nah, dili, taka lang ka, Tagalog. Like they have like they call them, like they have names for these people. Like,
oh
I mean,
man,
how different are we from these
don't
people?
underestimate Indonesia, dude. Their
I know, that's what I'm
economy's
saying,
on the
right?
uptick. Yeah.
We do not look very different from these people. They're like
No, we
from
don't.
Southeast
We
Asia.
don't.
We
I think
we
we-
are
I think
really
we look the most like
really close,
Indonesians.
really close.
I think we look the most like Indonesians.
Of course,
Thais,
dude. They
there's a
would
little
go
bit
to
of
my
difference.
to my
Malaysia's a little bit
wife's
of difference.
probinsya, and they would like just cross it like with their bangka, and they would like sell stuff there from Indonesia.
And
They
you
don't
can
even
tell
have
the difference.
passports.
You can tell the difference. To be fair, full-blooded Filipinas and Miss Universe are placing somewhere in the top 5.
Okay,
Top
that's
10.
true. That's true, Patrick. I would have to hand it to you. Like,
And
like full blood
we don't
Filipinas,
need
they
translators.
do so well.
We do not need translators. That's I don't. We don't need translators. That's all I can say about that, right? So, I mean, at least that alone, that you can think on your
Yeah,
feet
but
and
I mean, there are times that we do need translators.
we should
because
that
of
we
that.
should.
What was that? What was that like? When was this? The major thing, right? See, right? If she said it in Filipino, that would have been an awesome answer.
Was
You
that
know what I'm saying?
Universe? Was that Miss
That,
Universe?
I think that was Miss
That's
Universe.
probably Miss World or something. I don't know. But
I'm not
yeah.
sure, but you remember that major thing?
Yeah, I
Like there was
remember
that
that.
major like. Yeah. I mean, Catriona, she doesn't need an interpreter. She's Australian, right?
Yeah.
Pia Wurtzbach, she's probably highly educated. From what I heard, I think she grew up in the Philippines. So to be fair to her, even though
Yeah,
her last name is
like
Wurtzbach,
PS Philippines.
all
I
right.
think
So
she's
I mean,
yeah.
she knows how to speak Bisaya. So
It's just half.
yeah, kudos to her.
I mean, obviously the height,
Is-
right? Because I mean, if you just like pulled a girl right out of like a university in the Philippines and threw her to Miss Universe, she would be like what 5'3".
See, here's the thing. See, if you look at her like if you look at her like Wikipedia or whatever. All right, born September 24th, 1989. What is this? Stuttgart. How do you pronounce this?
Stuttgart, probably. I'm not sure.
Stuttgart, Germany. Right. That's where she was born. Right. Parents, Uwe Wurtzbach, Cheryl Alonso Tyndall. Right. German, Philippine. Right. So see, the nationality is German and Philippines. It's not even just like Philippines. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean.
So see,
and,
even
and,
then,
and
even
what,
then,
and let's be honest, what won her the crown? I mean, if you're talking about physical attributes, it was her German assets, physical assets that won her the crown. There's nothing Filipina about that height. There's nothing Filipina about those features. There's nothing Filipina about those boobs, right? I mean, she's whatever it is that won her physical wise. You can't say, oh, she's a Pinay beauty. She's
no, it's
obviously
not even okay,
right?
Patrick. It's not even the major meaning, like that word. Okay, but in the context of how she used it, that was because I heard it. I heard the answer. It was kind of funny.
I think we have very high standards when it comes to English. Like for example, if let's say it was like a lady from El Salvador or Dominican Republic who spoke in English and she spoke in thick accent and really poor grammar, but she exerted the effort to speak in English. Like, I think my country children of the government support children. I think people wouldn't mind. Like they wouldn't even like blink if she spoke like that because we're already amazed at the fact that she tried.
Dude, they
to speak
don't
in
blink when Manny
But-
Pacquiao speaks
but-
English. What are you talking
the
about? They don't
but in
blink.
the
They just like,
Philippines,
oh, Manny Pacquiao.
in the Philippines, dude, we're like, you speak English and hardly any accent. And I think Filipinos, even the Filipinos
They
only
would
start to sound.
still find
Yeah,
fault in it,
yeah.
right?
No, because we start to sound funny when we try to put on that accent. It's actually not doesn't sound funny when you speak in hard English. Like
That's what
I
I'm
think the I
saying.
think the
If you
Filipinos
cannot
should
pull it
be.
off,
That's
don't
fine.
don't try.
I
Don't even try.
know,
If you can't pull it off,
but that's
if you
what
can't pull it
Pinoys
off, don't even
do.
try. Because you
That's
know
what
what? There are a
Pinoys
lot
do.
of good Filipino English speakers who have the Filipino
Don't
accent.
do the accent.
Like for
Yeah, they don't do
example,
the
Ninoy
accent.
Aquino. Like I heard him speak. He had Filipino accent, but God, that guy was
Didn't do the
charismatic.
accent. Didn't do the
Okay,
accent.
he
Yeah,
didn't do the accent.
it
He
wasn't
was like he was
necessary.
really fluent. He was really charismatic. He was
He
he was
got
so
the point
profound.
across. He got the point
Yes,
across. I mean, it's
yes.
not necessary, but Filipinos being Filipinos, we always feel like the better of an English speaker you are, the more intellectual you seem to be. Do we look intellectual to you people? I mean, come on, right? But that's just how it is. That's
We
how it
look
is in
into
this country.
we look intellectual to you
Uy,
people. Then somebody would
Englishero.
be like, "No, you look Indonesian. You
No, you look
don't look
Malaysian.
like you look
It's like,
Indonesians."
It's like, uy, Englishero, matalino yan. Yeah, like people get intimidated because you speak English. So we all have this mindset. I mean, like, I don't know if it's a call center agent thing. I don't know what it is, but we all have this mindset where whenever somebody's trying to throw their weight around and trying to be authoritative in a situation, like for example, nagrereklamo ka sa service ng restaurant, I want to see the manager. Like, you start speaking in English. Because all of a sudden, people will respect you because you're speaking in English. Oh, wag mo si sir, like English na, yeah. I mean, it's like, I mean, even my mom does that, being a balikbayan sometimes. They'd be like, wait. I'd be like, it's just, for me, like, I don't get where that came from. Why we would respect somebody more because, I mean, is it an indicator of somebody who's highly educated? Like, I mean, I don't know. I know people who are super highly educated and they don't necessarily have to speak with an accent, but I think it's a mindset of our country where people kind of have that mindset where it's how we are. That's how we were raised, and that's how we look at people, and that's how we judge people. So I think that's why we always try. Because, I mean, in all honesty, you can actually, like what you said, you can actually request for a translator if, let's say, there's a Filipina participant in the Miss Universe and she has a really good answer and valid answer, but she just has a difficulty of phrasing it in English in a manner that it sounds, like intellectual as an answer. So she actually has the option. She can request for a translator, and she can speak in Tagalog, and her answer would probably sound better than had she forced it in English with an accent. The thing with translators and Miss Universe, translators can muddy the message. Correct, correct. They can also try to sugarcoat it. I remember the Miss France that won the crown a few years ago. There are people who pointed out that the message of her answer have a deeper meaning in French than the translated answer in English. Yeah, but she won. So there might also be instances where she might have a stupid answer in their native tongue, but the translator, being her fellow countryman, might
Yeah, exactly.
you're right,
Exactly.
sugarcoat it,
That's what
right?
happened with Japan when they won. She said it in Japanese, and the translation was like awesome. So, but I think in their own words as well, that was really awesome. But my point is they could express it well enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, yes.
And if you have a really good translator, then it can be translated very well as well. And then but you get the crown, right?
Yeah,
Because it's a hit and
yeah.
miss. It's a 50-50 right there. But
But
if you speak from your heart in your native tongue, then you have this really awesome translator. Then boom,
that's
right?
perfect.
What can
That's
go
perfect.
wrong?
Joe Boy's asking Patrick, I think, bro, are most Aussies the R word? I think he probably meant like racist, because I have a couple of friends who are, one lives in Australia, his brother visits often, and they both have encountered situations. No, not more than just those guys. I have another friend who was also on the bus and also encountered something like that. Like he was just approached. Like, my other friend, he was called a like some lady walked up to him. Like I think he was at the boardwalk or something, and some lady just walked up to him and said, "Cunt." He's like, what? I mean, we don't know if he was mistaken for another race, because probably racist. I'm assuming Patrick, like, racist. That's probably the question. because that's usually
But
what I
that could have been
hear.
anybody. Like when like when he said cunt, that could have been
I
anybody.
know he could have
Like
mistaken it. Yeah, he could have mistaken you for like another. Because that's what happened to me in Germany. I was walking with a friend, who was also a son of a Filipino diplomat, and we were walking in like the main square in Bonn, and we were approached by this drunk German guy. I already said the story before, but we were approached by this drunk German guy. It was middle of the day. It was like noontime. People there drink 24/7, and he had his fist on, and he was like yelling at us in German, in Deutsch. And I asked my friend who spoke fluent Deutsch because he was studying there, and he told me that we were mistaken for Malaysians because like Mahathir did something that in conflict maybe with the German government, so he was accusing us of being Malaysians and was like telling us to get the fuck out of their country. And my friend was like explaining that we're Filipinos and we're not Malaysians. But the guy was like adamant that like, no, you blah 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 blah. And like I said, another guy came
see,
who was like, God,
we don't look so
no,
much different from them.
we don't.
Indonesian, Malaysian,
We don't. That's what
Filipinos,
I'm
we're all the
saying.
same.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what you wear, dude. You're gonna be a minority. That's the sad story. That's the sad truth. You can be in a
Holy
first world
crap.
country.
Now you
thinking
make
you're
me
living
feel
for.
bad. I just bought a Banana Republic t-shirt.
No,
Now I feel bad about it.
I mean,
I should
you're
have
in
just like
Japan,
bought like a
dude.
freaking
You're in
what, like
Japan.
a freaking Uniqlo shirt.
You can actually pass
I'll
for
return
Japanese.
it tomorrow.
You could
I'll
pass
return
for
it tomorrow.
Japanese.
I'll
You
return
just
it
can't pass
tomorrow.
for like German, like Caucasian German. But you can pass for Japanese. It's like that's what I said about being in Asia. Like
But
if
you
I
know,
walk
I
around,
never
right?
like. Okay, that's a really bad thing to do. That's evil. That's just like that's crazy, man. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but I never really cared when it comes to like being whatever discriminated or like I mean I'm always like all right fuck you like like you don't like me then you don't like me I don't care like I if I get discriminated here in Japan, dude, I got discriminated in my own country. What are you talking about, right? So that wouldn't matter to me. Like you discriminate me like that. I felt discriminated in my own country, not just because of my race, but because of my status. Because people thought I was poor. Because people thought I wasn't, in the same league as they are.
Yeah,
And
that I
and
agree.
I'm like,
I
fuck
agree.
you. I'm like, I don't care. Like, you know what? I don't care. The
It's
hell I
it's
care.
like
Right?
racism and discrimination. Sometimes discrimination can be more damaging, and discrimination can happen within the same race. Like I said, you discriminate someone because they're dark. You discriminate someone because they're not wearing nice clothes. You discriminate someone because they live in a particular area. Like that's discrimination. That can hurt you more. That can be more damaging. Racism is like it could be like obviously and here's the difference too, like some people just because you bring up something about a race immediately they jump to the conclusion that it's racism. I mean, saying like saying that Negroes are black, that's not racism. Maybe that's a fact. Saying that Malaysians are brown, that's not necessarily racism, right? You're not bringing the race down. I think racism is when you bring the race down, when you say something that's debilitating to the culture, that's damaging to their self-worth. I think that's what it is, but when you say certain things about a particular race, it's not necessarily, we just become too sensitive that if you say anything about a particular race, it's immediately like racism, you know.
That's true, right?
Right?
That's
It's
true.
not like it's not necessarily like just
Right.
because you say something.
Yeah,
It
if
could
somebody
be a
tells me
fact.
I'm brown, I'm like, yeah, what am I? Like, yeah, I am
I
brown.
know
What the hell?
exactly. We're the brown race. Like
The white guy, the white guys
right?
get offended. The white guys get
Right.
offended. No, you should not say that. That's
No,
right.
because
Like,
they're-
no, I'm brown. It's fine. You
we
can tell,
are.
you can tell me I'm
because
brown.
there
I'm
are
okay.
forms, right? There are forms that would ask you like race, right? Brown,
Right.
what, right? Caucasian, a Negro, whatever. There are check boxes that actually state those things. That's part of the choice, and some people would actually be offended because they're called this or they call it's not the proper term for it. No, I think racism is when you bring it down, when you like actually say something that's damaging. Same with discrimination, like
Yeah. Like we use the term chinito, right? And like I've been, yeah, I've talked to some of my friends here, and I'm like, no, it's not racist when we talk about it, like in terms of like we're in the Philippines. Like it never comes off as racist. Like the chinitos or chinitas, like chinky eyes and whatever.
it's a
Like, oh,
compliment.
because that would be like, no, see that's the thing. Like no, it's not racist if you're in the Philippines. We talk about it, like it doesn't even mean or it doesn't even remotely have that like meaning. It's nowhere near being racist if you
Yeah.
say like, oh, he has almond
Like,
eyes or she has almond eyes or whatever,
exactly.
right?
What
So
what
because
what
it's just like that's it's just
what makes it
what do
different?
you like?
Okay.
Can you tell that she has round eyes when she doesn't?
I know, I
Right?
know. It's like, why would let's say, why would let's say, oh, he's an afro, like his afro. Why would that be more offensive than saying somebody's white and they have blue eyes? Why is that? Why is the blue eyes a compliment and why is the afro an insult? You know, like that's really just your mindset, like how you see things. Like, why would you say somebody has thick lips? I mean, well, somebody has thick lips, somebody has thin lips. What? Why is the thick lips an insult as opposed to the thin lips? Right? Why would that be? If you have a sharp nose and somebody has a flat nose, why would the flat nose be an
Right.
insult as
Right.
opposed to a sharp nose? The sharp nose can be funny too. You can look like a freaking parrot, you know.
Right.
I
Or
mean,
Pinocchio for that matter.
or Pinocchio for
Right.
that
Okay.
matter.
Yeah,
Right,
Patrick.
go ahead,
Okay,
go ahead.
since I am living in Melbourne, which is considered an international city here, people are tolerant with immigrants, although there are documented incidents of racism here as well. The more you move out of the city into the regional areas, the less tendencies for people to be tolerant to immigrants. I mean, I think it's everywhere. You go to like the smaller towns, and I mean, it's not just. I mean, it's you also have to understand, man. I mean, if you go to I mean, even in the Philippines, if you go to the, like the countrier it gets, the more ignorant
The
people,
more you stand out, right? Yeah, the
yeah,
more
the
like
more you
people will be
stand
like,
out,
"Oh,
and the more ignorant the people are there in that particular place. Because I mean, that's just the way it is. And I mean,
right."
they would discriminate against city boys or city girls or whatever. They would, they would take notice of your really short shorts or
But
your really
but
loud
it's
music and
sad
shit.
though.
I mean,
It's sad that
it's
he
just
used. I
insane.
mean, I mean, it's just that how I interpret it. It's sad that he used the term like tolerant. You know, like you're just being tolerated. Your presence there is just
That's
being
true.
tolerated. It's not even
Yeah.
accepted. It's like
Well,
we're just
okay. Let
tolerating
me
you.
ask
We're
Patrick.
not necessarily
You
embracing you. We're
Yeah,
tolerating you.
exactly. So is
So
that
yeah,
how you feel, Patrick? Like in
you're just
Melbourne right now,
you're
like you're
just being
just being
tolerated.
tolerated,
Yeah, it's not.
or are people
Are
there
you
sincerely
embraced?
like welcoming to you? Because me, I would have to say that I really can't tell. Because me, in the first, yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I don't really care. I'm the guy who doesn't care.
Dude, you could
I
be
try to blend
Japanese.
in.
I seen Japanese like MMA fighters that look like you. You kind of be Japanese. You
Yeah,
can. There
but
are,
that's the thing. They would
and I
know.
heard,
They
I
would
heard
know.
that dark Japanese guys are more attractive there. That's what I heard. So Joe
I
must
don't
make a
know. I
killing.
don't know about that.
Like they're more
Like yeah,
macho.
Joe.
They're
All
more
right, okay.
macho, right?
I don't know about that, but here's the thing. It's more of like, um, I don't really know. I mean, I think they're trying their best to understand because for the most part, it's more of like the culture difference. It's not even because I'm Filipino, but it's mostly because if you're a foreigner, doesn't matter where you're from, South America, North America, Europe, Southeast Asia, wherever, right? If you're a foreigner, it's sort of like Japanese are wired to like, all right, they're not Japanese, and we have a very odd, I mean, not odd culture, but for them, it's like we have our own culture, and it's really, I mean, even them, they realize that it's, I mean, people would really have a hard time adjusting to their culture because they know it's just difficult. I mean, them as Japanese people, they have a hard time adjusting to it, and they're already Japanese.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of
Okay.
Japanese friends. And they're saying like, I'm Japanese and I have a hard time understanding my
Why?
culture.
Why are
How much more people from
Filipinas?
other countries?
Why are Filipinas though like more accepted there? Like for example, like for lack of a better term, let's say the Japayukis or the Filipina whatever. Like Filipinas, they go there. Why are Japanese men, you know, they embrace Filipinas like as if, I don't know, maybe even more so than they would, let's say, a Japanese woman. Like, whereas I think it's the other way
Okay,
around
okay,
with
all right,
Japanese
okay.
women. Like,
Well,
why is
well,
that?
here's
Like,
the thing. Here's the
are
thing.
Filipinas looked up to or
No,
looked
here's
down
the thing. Okay,
upon? I
I have
mean,
to. Okay. I am going to tell you something that's probably I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna help these people who are like working in that industry. But here's the thing. Japan is a really really like I mean it's big, right? There are a lot of people here, and Filipinas are like okay, you be like okay, let's because you were talking about like these Filipinos who work in Philippine clubs, and I just had this conversation with two guys from America, from Boston, and they were asking me about like Filipino clubs. So like, what's that about? Like Filipino clubs, like what's like a Filipino club, like where like Filipino music and dancing? Like no, that's not what it is. It's like a hostess club where there are like Filipinos there, and I was explaining to them that like with these with Philippine clubs. Um, it's different because, for example, with these cabaret that has Japanese women, they're more expensive and they're more strict. Like if you're a foreigner, you can't go there. It doesn't matter where you're from, American, European. It doesn't matter. Like you cannot go in there. You cannot go in there. They will not take you in. If it's a
Mm.
Japanese cabaret, if it's a Japanese club, like a hostess club, no way you can get in there. From what I heard, right?
Mm.
They're pretty strict about it. Like they will not let you in. Doesn't matter how much money you have, they cannot let you in for some reason. I don't know. But with the Japanese, because there are like so many clubs here, and one of them is like the Philippine clubs, and there are also clubs with I don't know Chinese women, but because Filipinos, you know what, Filipinos are by nature very cariñosa, right? Howd mo
Yeah.
jamming. That's what
Yeah.
we are. Even the
Yeah.
guys are howd mo jamming.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I
More
mean,
affectionate.
these Japanese guys who needed somebody to talk to, I mean, they would embrace all of these women because Filipinas can listen. I
Okay.
mean, their spouse. The reason why most of these men are even married when they go to clubs,
Yeah.
their wives don't have the patience to listen to them. Like when they get married, that's it. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to hear about your shit. You come home, you eat, you sleep. I don't want to talk to you. I think that's the case.
So
I
they
mean,
don't
at
have the
least for
sense
these,
of patriotism where they have to date their own, like because
I
like
don't think so. Like, and okay, and these people that we're talking about, like these people who go to Filipino clubs, they're not really from. You know what I'm saying? Like, like the percentage of these people coming from like the high society or like the highly educated people is really slim. Most of these people are probably like what construction
firemen.
workers
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
firemen, like like
Yeah. 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 I
blue
hear
collar
that.
jobs,
Yeah.
right?
I hear that. Yes.
Right. So they're not necessarily like rich or whatever, but because
So
I
they
mean
so
the
they
wages here are
so they
so different, and they
appreciate
have like
that
all the
level of appreciation from a Filipino woman because she doesn't really look down upon him being just a blue
exactly,
collar worker.
exactly,
He gets
exactly,
that same
exactly,
service and care
exactly,
that he probably might
exactly.
not get from, let's say, a Japanese woman who maybe
Right,
puts
right.
more of a premium on his
And they dance with you, they sing
financial
karaoke
state.
with you, and they kind of like like
Okay, I get it. I
they're
get
very
it.
cariñosa. They make cariño to you, so that's how they are. But on some other level from different members of the society here in Japan, you can say that they're being looked down upon, like a Filipino clubs, like especially Japanese women and such, right?
Yeah.
So it's and they're not even like, for example, like back in the day when people talk about these women, they're like they think that they're like selling their like dignity or whatever. Like no, dude, they're hardworking people who just entertain like people who are going through like some stuff in their lives. You know what I'm saying? They have issues. They're like they just want to go to the club to talk to somebody. They're not having sex. Nobody's having sex with them, right? Not because like this Japayuki went home and had sex with somebody. You're thinking like, oh, they're just having sex with it. Like no, they don't do that. If they're having sex back home, they're having sex with with people they want to have sex with. They're not having sex here. Like what they do here is they help people. They talk to people. They entertain people. They sing with people. They dance with people. That's what they do. They don't do
Yeah.
something bad. They don't do something immoral. They're
Yeah.
entertainers. They entertain. They're not so different from what I do. I
Yeah.
entertain my students, and that's what I do.
Because that's what
I teach, and
because
at the
that's
same
what
time I
people
entertain.
assume. That's what people assume. It's like, oh, just because you're like this, oh, like you're almost to the level of like you're a prostitute, like you get paid for sex. No, that's
Yeah,
not what
burikat na
they
burikat. Like no,
they
they're
just
not. What are you
serve.
talking
Like you
about?
serve drinks, you talk to them, you're hostess,
Exactly.
you
Yeah, that's what they are. That's what
and
they
that's
are.
all they want. They don't really like force anything upon a woman.
Right,
I
yeah.
mean,
No.
unless maybe they're attracted to each other, then that's outside of the
Yeah,
work thing
yeah,
already,
that's
right?
true. They can date
That's
outside
just
of
genuine
work, whatever.
attraction.
But yeah, and they even have bouncers and shit, and shit. Like if if some men get drunk and they try to do some like really lewd stuff, like yeah, the woman can complain and they can get thrown out of the club. So you know what I'm saying? It's like yeah, it's like you're being a stripper. Like yeah, I mean they take that's a different like I mean comparison, but I mean strippers, you can't touch their boobs. You can like yeah
Yeah.
they dance naked, but that's it. You can't disrespect them or
Like
whatever. You
if
go
you
in
do
there, you look
something, you get
like
kicked
you get
out.
hard,
Nah,
you
you
get
get
kicked
kicked
out.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Yeah. So all right. Well, okay. Patrick says, regarding the tolerant with immigrants, I think it's more like my feelings. I'm probably yeah. You know what? I think I felt the same way. Like when I was in Europe, when I went to Germany, there's certain parts of Germany where it's kind of like, when you go to a fast food place or you go to a restaurant or something, like they genuinely don't look at you like, they're holding back something. Like there are places where they really genuinely are warm to you, like they'll talk to you as if you're one of their own. But there are also like certain cities, like there are nearby cities in Germany that we went around, that you could kind of feel the animosity. Like they're like right when you walk in, it's like you can sense it, like how they would serve you, how they would entertain you. And I think that's one thing that we really kind of forget to keep in mind sometimes when you go to a foreign country,
That
is that,
rarely happens
you
here,
know
but yeah, well, it does happen from time to time.
I mean, we're
And
just
maybe because the
lucky.
person was just having a bad day.
Yeah, because
But
like
it's
for
not really like they're
example,
racist or something, you know?
like for example in Asia, the difference, right? I haven't really been to very many Asian places. I've only been to Hong Kong and Bangkok, besides the Philippines. But let's say going to Bangkok, we go to Bangkok, right? You go to one of their like malls there that sell bargain stuff, and you walk in there and they immediately know you're Filipino, just maybe because you travel in packs and you kind of look Thai but you dress differently and you speak a different language or something, or that you try to immediately, ask for the best price, and they know they look like you and you speak English good. They go, oh, you're Filipino, they go, mabuhay, mabuhay. They all immediately talk about Pacquiao, and you're like, man, this is so. They look up to Filipinos in Bangkok, and that's what I like about Bangkok specifically, because they see you're a Filipino. They know you have money. They know you speak English. They know about Pacquiao and all these popular Filipino, celebrities and whatnot. And they even speak, your dialect. And they don't try to make it feel like, oh, this is Thailand. This is our country. You know, you can't ask for a bargain here. No, they actually really look up to Filipinos. They're so amazed at us because we look like them, but we speak good English, and we kind of make a bigger scene in the international, I guess, whether it's sports or celebritydom or whatever. There are more Filipinos who find success because, I guess, because we speak English and we're more westernized, and it's easier for us to adapt to different cultures. So I really feel the warmth. That's what I meant by, let's say, when I compare myself being in Europe as opposed to I compare myself being in somewhere in Asia. Is that there's a sense of belongingness. They kind of still look at you as brothers. But when you go to Europe, I mean, if they look at you and talk to you a certain way, there's nothing you can do about it. You can speak perfect English. You could be married to a local. You could be living there for 50 years. It ain't gonna change a damn thing. It's not gonna make them warm up to you more. It's not gonna make them like you more. If that's just how they view you as, that's how you are. You can show them your diploma that you study there. It's not gonna change a damn thing. And that's kind of like the downside for me about, let's say, living in Europe or whatnot. And I can sense it. Eventually you hang out with the locals long enough, you can sense when they're genuine, and you can sense when they're keeping their distance, and that they're just faking it for the sake of business. Whereas in Asia, like for example in Hong Kong, if let's say you go to a food stall and an old Chinese lady who owns the food stall is telling you that you order, hurry, order, you not take long, order, you pick. She talks that way to everybody. She doesn't talk that way because I'm Filipino. She'll talk that way to the white customer. She'll talk that way to the Chinese customer. That's just how they talk. This is the Hong Kong people are always busy and they're always in a rush, and they want you to not take your time. If you're like, oh, what is this? You ask too many questions. Not too many questions. You order whatever same. It's like, so you don't feel like she's like that to me because I'm Pinoy, because she's like that with everybody. Whereas in other countries, like I don't know, maybe Australia, maybe Germany, or maybe wherever, you do have that sense of like it's still up to them. If they decide to be jerks to you, there's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't matter how
True.
long you live there.
True.
It doesn't matter if you're married to a German girl. It doesn't matter if they decide to be a jerk to you. That's their thing, and that's what's tough. Whereas with Asian people, you have a sense of belongingness. And I think like in Japan, Filipinos are generally regarded, we're looked at in a positive light. I mean, if anything, we should be the one we were the offended ones. To be honest, we were the ones who were.
Yeah, I mean, Japan is still like same. I think same with any other country. They're like, I mean, depends on the person. Like there are people who are like just, like very, you know what I'm saying? Like they're just like normal people. Like they don't discriminate or whatever, and they're just like dicks. Like it doesn't matter
Yeah.
where, like
Yeah,
Japan,
that's
Philippines,
different.
America. They're
That's
just like
different.
dicks.
Yeah, people wear
And
dicks
there are
are
people who are just
different.
like normal. Like me, I'm like, I'm in the Philippines. There are people that I like and people that I don't like, but I don't act like a dick.
Whether they're
right?
Filipinos or not, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the same thing. So me in Japan, I feel that way. Like Japanese are like they don't really care. Like as long as you don't like really bother them, I don't think they'd care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they don't care about like, oh, you're taking our jobs or whatever shit. Like they don't say that. Like they're just like, all right, don't bother me, I won't bother you. It's the same in the Philippines. Don't bother me, I won't bother you. Don't fuck with
Yeah.
me, I won't fuck
It's like
with you.
it's
the
like
same
how
thing.
they are to, let's say, a Filipino or a Mexican or American is how they are to their fellow Japanese. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yeah.
Like,
It's the same thing.
It's not like
It's the
they'll
same
invite
thing.
the Japanese friend and not you. I mean, they're just really not that
Exactly.
type of
It's
people.
it's
They're
the
just
same
not that
thing.
type of people, right?
It's the same thing.
It's
It's
the
the
same
same
thing.
thing. So all right.
So you have to accept that. So all right.
Okay.
Anyways,
So
next
we'll be
show.
back on what Thursday? Thursday.
Yes.
All right,
That should be a
Thursday.
sure thing.
All right,
That
we'll
should be a
see you
sure
on
thing.
Thursday. Dude, I'm more tired than the usual because I do this thing in summer. Like I have a gig. It's a summer gig. And man, I go
Oh,
to
you're
like different schools and stuff. I go to daycares, like the
so
school
what- so,
daycares,
so like what
and I
time you
teach
get
English
home?
there. Like no, I get home early, but it's just that
There's
it's
more.
an hour
You have
every
an
time,
extra.
and you
Okay.
do more because these kids are mixed, and
And
it's there's
it's
it gets
10:28
me.
there. It's
Yeah,
9:30
it's
here.
ten
It's
twenty eight.
10:30 there. There's a that difference too, you know.
Because
It's later
the
there.
thing is, it's daycare. It's not like school. So it's more of like we can't really force them to study. It's more of like you got to play. You got to entertain them. When they
Oh,
say
yeah,
they don't want to do
get
it, you can't force them.
Yeah.
If they yarita ko na, I don't want to do it, then you can't force them. So
Oh,
that's the thing. So it's kind of tricky. So we really have to entertain them. So yeah, I'm like I'm really
You're like
I'm
plus you
talked
have to
out.
plus you have to entertain Patrick and Gab.
That too. But all right, okay. But guys,
get what you
it's
mean,
really
you
nice to have you around.
Yeah, we'll catch
And
you
it was a
Thursday.
nice conversation. We'll catch you Thursday. And yeah, enjoy your week. And we'll see you Thursday. This has been the OK Show with Rod and Iceman. And we are out. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.